What's up, suppers? It is Deibs, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. First things first, make sure you check out the Suit Up podcast on iTunes and Spotify. Smash those 5 stars. Leave a review. On tap for today, we're going to review The Empire Strikes Back and tie it all in to The Mandalorian. Joining us today, we have our co-host. Where have you been, Dave? Follow him on Twitter @Defective. What's going on, man?
Nothing new. There's nothing new in pop culture. It's been pretty lazy. Yeah, nothing new. Nothing new. Disney Plus, I don't even know what that is.
Stop it. Make sure you check out his awesome podcast called A Suit Up. A Pod Has No Name. They are reviewing all the books and all the new episodes of His Dark Materials. How's that going, man?
His Mark Materials is one of the worst shows on HBO right now, but His Dark Materials, not too bad. Tom and Shane have been kicking ass. I can get on there probably maybe once every 2 weeks. They've been killing it on Reddit. You guys have been doing obviously a great job here on Suit Up Star Wars edition. Just glad I was able to sneak some 20 minutes with you all.
Also joining us today, we have Jack Connell. Make sure you follow him on Twitter @JackConnell's TPL, and check out his new podcast called Post Position. What's going on, Jack?
Nothing much, another Star Wars podcast, ready to get into it. Talk some Empire, talk some Mandalorian, ready to do it.
All right, so we've done a few podcasts on The Mandalorian. We don't have Dave's take. So far, 3 episodes. What's been your quick overall summary of The Mandalorian, Dave?
It's my favorite 35 minutes on my train ride Friday mornings. Yeah, I mean, I think Jack's said it many times. It feels like a Star Wars thing. You feel like you're in it. I don't know how much money they put into the special effects, but to the cinematography. You say 02 or
200 through 8 episodes or something crazy.
Yeah, I just want to say, Game of Thrones, you could have learned a thing or two on this. They have no problem showing Baby Yoda or the child of Yoda all throughout the show, and I guarantee you that was special effects, gentlemen. So why the fuck we couldn't have a direwolf at all in the last season, I have no idea. But right. I'm just glad we're getting that Disney money. It's good.
How would you grade it out of 10 overall?
7 parsecs out of 10.
Parsecs.
I don't know what
do you even know what parsecs are anymore? I don't even know if we do. The meaning changes as the older I get. It feels like. All right, so let's talk a little bit about The Empire Strikes Back. We're going to talk about our favorite moments and connect The Mandalorian and The Empire Strikes Back. I'm going to lead us off. One of my favorite moments has to be. I got to start off with the Star Wars VHS box set. Do you guys remember the Star Wars box sets that you got? It was like gold, black and gold. Anybody?
So there were 2 kinds.
One with like Vader on it and had each different movement. That was what I had.
Yeah, there was a gold one and then there was a silver one. There were plenty of them, Chris. I think it sounds like you've got the reimagined one.
Yeah, I have that one.
Yeah, so that came out in the late 90s.
So watching this. I'm watching Empire Strikes Back on Disney Plus, and the cinematography, the visuals is absolutely gorgeous. And I have to go back to watching these on VHS. That's my first take. Go ahead, Dave. What's another favorite moment?
I'm confused on where VHSs existed in the Star Wars universe, but so it's fine. Look, Empire was actually, you're going to find this surprising, not my favorite of the Star Wars. And I'll tell you why later on, but obviously a lot of great moments, but you can't make a movie of like multiple great moments and think it's a great movie overall. And I think that's just, it gets a lot of credit because it introduces Vader as the father, spoiler if you didn't know, it introduces Carbonite, Boba Fett's in it for 13 seconds. All of a sudden he's got his own cult classic on Disney Plus. A lot of cult things happen in this movie, but obviously the training montage with Yoda is still top notch.
Absolutely epic. We had the intro of Yoda in this, but we also had some of the most epic Yoda quotes of all time, man. Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. Try not. Do not. There is no try, dude. Yoda just was on fire this episode, man. Jack, what's your favorite moment?
I got 2. I mean, I think obviously the introduction of that entire first quarter of the movie, I think, is just it's so iconic. It's one of the first things many people think of when they hear Star Wars is the walkers, the snow speeders, all of that. And then I think kind of just like the ending, just when they're having that fight in the carbonite station in Bespin, and Darth Vader obviously tells Luke he's his father. That whole fight, that whole sequence, I think, is another favorite moment for me.
I got to talk about a little bit about the tone. This was a lot darker than A New Hope. You have when you compare that to The Mandalorian, there's a lot of similarities there. I think we're going to get into that a little bit more. But the music, come on. It introduces the Empire March theme song. Dun, 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 dun. Like, what's more epic than that? You had the Yoda score. I think my top takeaway from A New Hope was Luke's score, Luke's theme back in A New Hope with the binary stars in the background. That was just an epic moment. Dude, the Empire March score, so good, man. This set up the Empire as this intimidating dark force. They were kind of like annoying in A New Hope. In this movie, though, they were just legit scary. Any other takes on Empire Strikes Back, Dave?
Look, we all know Chris loves the villains. And we know I love the heroes. So clearly this was never going to be a movie for me, about me, any way, shape, or form. But in any type of 3-act arc, you need that hook that keeps you in. And, obviously this was going to turn into a redemption story for Vader in The Return of the Jedi. So it is what it is. That's all I can say about that.
What about you, Jack?
I mean, I just think it's a great movie. I mean, I get where Dave's coming from, why he wouldn't find it as a great movie that is. I enjoy it. I mean, it's obviously a different type of sequel than many movies have really touched upon, where when they come out of it, I mean, there's obviously a third part coming, but the bad side's obviously on top. I mean, really the only modern version I remember off the top of my head is Avengers Infinity War. Just like, it's kind of doom and gloom. Like, you don't know what's coming next.
What was the more epic moment? Was it Luke versus Darth Vader and the lighting and all of that cinematography in that scene? Or was it Leia telling Han, "I love you," right before he gets frozen in carbonite? Go ahead, Dave.
Well, it's the answer right afterwards. It's when Han goes, "I know." So obviously it was, if you know anything about how the movie was made, that was an ad-libbed line. They kept it in there because it was fantastic. That makes it better. But obviously, if you're into the fights, those lightsabers going off were just fantastic. Where it cuts to the darkness and you just see lightsabers. It sets for some of the better lightsaber battles. When you think about what started out, when you look at the prequels and you look at how great those fight scenes were,
Right.
then you saw A New Hope and how it was kind of stupid, and you're wondering, like, what the fuck? I mean, these were really great fighters, and then they weren't great fighters. What happened? And then this was the Empire showed that they are great fighters. Fencing is a thing in Star Wars, so it's still amazing that Luke was able to do those flips.
Go ahead, Jack.
I kind of agree with what he said there. I mean, obviously, in the lightsaber battles, I mean, it really wasn't seen much in A New Hope. It was kind of just old Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader, and then you take a look now at, like, let's take, for example, Phantom Menace, like Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon versus Darth Maul. Like, it's just very vast, different examples of lightsaber battles.
And this set up Leia as a badass. When Yoda goes, "There is another," and we saw Leia be able to use the Force and recognize Luke. Come on, man. Give Leia some love here. All right, let's talk about Dave's take on The Empire Strikes Back before we move on to The Mandalorian. This is going to be fire. Go ahead, man.
All right, so I can't remember which comedian it was. It might have been Nate Bargatze, and he kind of has something very similar. So it's going to sound like I stole it from him, but how this phrasing was said is exactly how I feel. So I saw Spaceballs before I saw any of the Star Wars movies. So the first time I saw Star Wars, I was like, man, and this is the Nate Bargatze line, this is an unfunny Spaceballs. It is what it is. And I kind of always thought about that. So when I think of the movies, that still kind of comes back to me of how much I like Spaceballs. Now, Empire Strikes Back, very similar. There's not like a Spaceballs 2 or anything like that, so there's nothing I can equate that to, but I just felt that this was an unfunny movie, and I really like the comedies, but I would agree that, you should see how they smell worse on the inside. Great line by Han.
Yeah.
Lando's obviously a badass. It brings in one of the first black space fighters, outside of the Star Trek universe. So like here in Star Wars, that's a big deal. I'm not saying this was not a monumental movie. It's not my favorite.
Well,
One thing I wanted to note
Go ahead,
on
Jack.
is I've never realized how annoying C-3PO was.
I was pretty happy when you got scrapped in the Cloud City. But come on, Dave. The line from Leia, "You scruffy, no good, nerf herder." That wasn't funny to you?
All right. So we're all going to, I mean, obviously now that we've all seen Game of Thrones, I guess we're okay with incest. But back then, that was not acceptable. All right. You are not allowed to, that first movie, A New Hope, when it was not called A New Hope, it was just Star Wars. Luke and Leia were definitely going to do something together, like biblical. Now, all of a sudden, they're brother and sister. Luke figured it out. Leia figures it out in the third one. Han, just doesn't get it. It's just poor writing, but we knew that was the case because we knew George Lucas didn't have all the movie completely. He didn't have all 3 movies mapped out, and that's okay.
Okay. Any takes on that, Jack, before we move on?
I mean, I agree. I mean, he's got that. I mean, Dave nailed that right on the head. Really much to add to that one.
All right.
Jack, come on. Challenge me. Challenge me, Jack. Come on.
The Empire Strikes Back is hands down a perfect movie. I didn't call it my favorite Star Wars movie, though. I called it A New Hope. That was my favorite movie. New Hope is the Batman Begins of the Star Wars universe. I still love it more, even though like The Dark Knight, The Empire Strikes Back, I recognize those as better films, but I just like them more. But The Empire Strikes Back, man, there's just so many epic moments. We didn't even talk about the asteroid scene. I watched that yesterday. That still holds up to today. That scene where they go in the planet and the exogorth is.
Don't tell me the odds. I know the freaking movie, dude. It's not my favorite.
It's fine, man. You're allowed to.
This is why I've not been on these pods, Jack. Because I come on here, Chris doesn't like my opinions, and then I need to go sit for like 30 days and think about whether I want to do this ever again.
Wow.
Okay. That's your name to Debbie Downer down there, because that's what you're being right now.
A Davy Downer. There it is.
Yeah, right. There it is.
All right, let's talk a little bit about The Mandalorian. We know The Mandalorian takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi, so we're going to talk a little bit about some similarities between Empire Strikes Back and The Mandalorian. I'll lead us off. Obviously, this film introduces us to Boba Fett, a significant bounty hunter with a giant reputation. He uses a similar rifle that we see the Mando use in The Mandalorian. Any similarities you've found, Dave? Go ahead, man.
Not in this one. Obviously, the big one is you'll see in Return of the Jedi when he gets to use all his tools. The only thing that we know about is carbonite, and we see that, in Mandalorian, he's got a freezer full of carbonite. He can just carbonite anybody at any moment. It's kind of funny that he didn't carbonite the baby, but here we are.
I was hoping he was.
I don't think America was ready for that.
Do you think he was going to carbonite Carl Weathers in that third chapter, man?
No.
I was hoping. That would have been epic. Like when he uses a little and it whatever. Jack, any similarities with Mando and The Empire Strikes Back?
I think, everybody's favorite Mandalorian, Boba Fett, kind of the main one. I'm trying to think. Stormtroopers. Obviously, that was same New Hope. It's the Empire, and you're going to see Stormtroopers and that. There really wasn't that many similarities. This was a lot more different planetary base, so there really wasn't like New Hope. You kind of make similarity between Tatooine and that planet that he was on in that episode again, Baby Yoda. So there's not really many parallels between these 2 episodes.
All right,
or this episode in Empire.
I've got a few. here. All right.
Maybe you're missing something I'm not thinking of. That's probably blatantly obvious.
They're quick, right? They're very quick. So Empire introduces us to the Bosk character in Chapter 2 when you see. Right in the beginning of Chapter 2, when you see Mando and Baby Yoda walking, they get attacked by 4 Bosks. They're like these dinosaur lizard characters.
I know you're talking about.
Yeah, so they get introduced in Empire Strikes Back. We get introduced to IG-88, which is pretty much a replica of IG-11. Pour one out for you. Miss you, IG-11. Awesome character. Hopefully it comes back, but looks bad. We also see... I thought when you saw the Wampas and you saw the what was the thing that Luke was riding in Hoth?
Oh, the van. I know you're talking about the
The Tauntaun. The Tauntaun.
Mm-hmm.
So those creature designs, I think, are very similar to what we saw in the Mandalorian. We saw the Mudhorn. I think there's some similarities there, man. So I'm really grasping at straws here, but there's a little bit of similarities there.
I would say that you're seeing a lot of good callbacks, but I think if you're thinking of what the plot of Empire was, which is, moving it forward for a redemption arc, you could have sold me on that one, Chris, that now Mando is trying to redeem himself as he escapes the other people, but it's a little bit different story because now you got a whole bunch of Mandalorians.
Right.
Like now they're going to have to find a new base. I don't know. You could have got me with that one.
Obviously, Boba Fett's a clone. We're going to see obviously some cloning stuff going on probably in the next few episodes of The Mandalorian. Any last comments before we wrap this up?
Yeah. So we talked about. I know you guys have mentioned this a few times. Mandalorian, where people are not supposed to take off their helmet. It seems like it was Yet Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones is always without his helmet. Why are we not talking about this? Or are we going to talk about that when we bring up Attack of the Clones?
We'll bring that up. We're going to watch.
Is it or the Mandalorian? I mean, my lore's not fully recognized. But I mean, do 7-year-old Mandalorians have to wear their helmets? Either way.
This is the way, Jack. This is
What?
the way.
Yeah. They're the foundlings. They're a little bit different than the younglings because the foundlings were clearly people they just stole from other people. The younglings they trained. The
younglings weren't massacred by lightsabers.
Well, we don't know what the foundlings were, so hold out for chapter 5. I think that's the scene.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be watching every single Star Wars movie. We're going to do a rewatch and connect it to The Mandalorian, but this will also get us ready for the Rise of Skywalker. Make sure you check out Dave and his podcast, A Pod Has No Name. What's going on with that, man? Talk about the podcast.
Yeah, so Tom and Shane just did chapter 3. We do one every week. The HBO show comes out on Monday. We did the book series for His Dark Materials. That's going to end probably in a couple weeks, probably about a month left. And luckily we've got content with new episodes of Game of Thrones. There's prequel series. We'll probably dive into a little bit of His Dark Materials. And of course, we're always looking for season 3. So if anyone know, we're looking for like that fantasy mix between maybe there were books, there's movies coming out. We're trying to mix the two because that's what we like to talk about. How do books and TV shows or books and movies differ? Awesome.
Check that out on Twitter at A Pod Has No Name. And Jack, Post Position Pod, you just had a podcast with Tom Moore. You talked some Sixers chat. What's going on with your podcast, man?
I mean, we're going to have some great guests coming on. We got Jack Duffy coming on Tuesday from the Pan Lines. Might have some other stuff in between. Who knows? But they're just keep on coming. Everybody make sure you check them out. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Post Position Pod. All your general NBA information, Sixers, anybody, we got it.
Perfect. And for all Star Wars content, make sure you check out thepaintedlines.com. We have reviews up there, and we'll have reviews for the rest of the episodes of The Mandalorian. For Dave, for Jack, for myself, I'm Deibs. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay awesome.